What's going on YouTube? JT is Reborn here, and welcome back to another edition of my DC comic reviews. And in this video, we're going to be talking about DC versus Vampires All-Out War. Left for dead, but ready for war. So this is another spin-off of the DC versus Vampires storyline. I did mention earlier this week I was going to get to covering this thing, and day by day I didn't get around to it, but now finally it's Saturday, it's Comic-Con day, and I'm like, screw it, I posted enough videos today, so I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to keep going until I can't post anymore. So we're going to go ahead and talk about DC versus Vampires All-Out War, issue number 1 of 6. This one's written by Matthew Rosenberg, and there's a few other people who've worked on it creatively. This one was a bit of an interesting one in that the art style this time around kind of mimics more like a manga-inspired feel to it. It's all like in black and white with hints of like red and kind of orange kind of sprinkled in, and I don't know why that is, why they felt the need to not fully colorize this issue like they have all the other issues of it. And I feel like had it been fully colorized, I think it would have been easier to dictate a little bit more of what was going on, especially things in the background and stuff. Look, if this were a manga, I can understand because everything there is pretty much black and white, but this is a North American comic book, and it's cool sometimes to have manga-inspired feels, but I feel like kind of having the colors like this kind of takes away from it, because sometimes you can't tell necessarily who is who, and it's sometimes harder to distinguish things in the background. Now, the artwork itself is nicely done. I just wish the colors would have been fully colorized. I get it's an aesthetic choice, but I think it would have helped the issue overall. So that's my humble opinion. But basically, the plot this time around is Slade Wilson is going on a mission with Damage and Blue Devil, and they're trying to find a Lazarus Pit to resurrect Batman, because Batman is kind of a morale boost. Slade has had it up to here with this whole council thing that's going toe-to-toe with the vampires, which, as we know, the Vampire King is Dick Grayson. And they're trying to bring back Batman from the dead. And they're like, you know what? Let's go track down this Lazarus Pit. But there's also something interesting in regards to the Lazarus Pit. We come to find out that the Lazarus Pits themselves have been hunted down and kind of destroyed by the various vampires. And there's a reason for that. And it's explained in the issue that the Lazarus Pits are actually a cure to vampirism. So that could be a key factor going forward. So Azrael shows up, starts attacking Damage. He basically kind of kills him. Blue Devil kind of dies, and there's somebody else who shows up here. And like I said, the artwork is good, but it just needs to be colored a little bit better, because sometimes all this going on here, it's sometimes hard to dictate what's going on. I felt like, did somebody land in the Lazarus Pit? Did somebody land in something else? Which Azrael does land in it. Like I said, I had to kind of go back and reread it, but I would have really liked if this issue had showcased a little bit more color. I think it would have made it stronger. So Azrael ends up in the Lazarus Pit, and that cures him of his vampirism. Slade and that went toe-to-toe with Blue Devil, Damage, and there was somebody else kind of there, but they don't really explain necessarily who it is. And they head back to the little headquarters there. Kirk Langstrom does some experiments, like, hey, his blood's good. He is officially cured now. And then we come to find out at this place there's also Bane. There's a few other characters that are kind of living here. It's kind of a little sanctuary. Mary Marvel's there. It's a little sanctuary from all the stuff that's been happening inside the whole war and all that. This issue, I should mention, is also takes place before the previous issue of DC versus Vampires in the main series. We're going to find out that Supergirl is involved and they're trying to rescue her and all that. The Atom is kind of like a light source right here, so he's there to help kind of the crops grow. They're living super far underground. They're trying to like find an effective strategy to take down the vampires, but Azrael does tell them exactly what happened. Damage comes back after seeing him get killed. He kills somebody here. Is it Tara? I don't know. Like I said, it's tough to tell who's who in this thing. I don't think they gave the full name. Vigilante's there too. He ends up getting killed. A lot of people just die in DC versus Vampires, but I do like the fact that they did find a cure for vampirism, although the fact that Azrael was dumped in the pit kind of tampered the pit and infected it, so it was no longer of use. So that's one of the few pits that they were able to find remaining. So if they're able to find more Lazarus Pits and they're able to kind of extract the substance, they can realistically cure people of the vampirism. So we do find out from Azrael that the reason he targeted the metahumans is obviously something like he turned them first because he knew that they were the key to total subjugation and that. So they have these blood farms going on. So now he has this information about the vampires. Damage, who's been turned, kind of comes back and sets off the Atom at the end of the issue, because he's basically like a nuclear bomb. And yeah, so kind of destroys like their light source of power and like for food and everyone. So everyone's kind of in a screwy situation in this thing. You just can't seem to win. Then there's also a backup storyline, which I'm surprised this had. But like I said, everything's done in black and white with little hints of red coloring there. And it's Batgirl. I think it's Barbara Gordon. Yeah, I think it's Barbara Gordon. It's kind of hard sometimes to tell because, like I said, since this is all in black and white, I can't tell based on the hair or anything. They just say Batgirl, but and they're kind of dressed a little bit differently from how Barbara Gordon usually dresses. But I think it's Barbara Gordon. I'm pretty certain it is. But like I said, it's tough sometimes to tell, given there's no color distinction, so I couldn't tell if that's her red hair or Stephanie's in that. If you're going to do something in a different art style, this is a different continuity, I think you should give a little bit more background so people can tell, but that's just me. So anyway, she goes toe-to-toe, Jim Gordon, who's the GCPD, were like signaling the bat signal. She's like, hey, we have a plan to stop these vampires, and then it turns out they're really vampires themselves. And then Batgirl ends up killing him. And it's kind of a really tough thing because, like I said, that's Barbara Gordon. She had to kill her own father who's been turned into a vampire. She's just really broken at this point, and after all the stuff that's kind of happened, it's just a real sad tragedy with the whole situation. But anyways, DC versus Vampires, the All-Out War issue #1 is still a pretty good issue. I just have gripes with the coloring in it. I feel like they really should have just added more color. Like, look at this cover right here. You think, oh wow, that's some great looking artwork, and also very kind of misleading because I don't think Deadman was in the issue. It was Booster Girl, I think, was in there too. But like I said, I really wish they had added more color to the issue instead of doing like black and white. It feels kind of incomplete. It's like, if I'm spending this much money on like the comic book, like why can't you just go the extra mile and just add some color to it? Yeah, I get like mangas in that are black and white, but this is a North American comic book. The other issues in DC versus Vampires have color, but sometimes with this, it's a little hard to dictate what's what and tell without like it being fully colorized. So, and I'm somebody who enjoys like stuff in black and white sometimes too, like movies and that, but just the way the art was, it would have helped a little bit to distinguish things just a little bit better, if I'm being honest. So yeah, that's just a minor real complaint I have about it. And then, like I said, after reading it again and just kind of really like seeing things a little bit differently, and then I was able to kind of like get into it a little bit more upon like a second reading of the issue. I mean, DC versus Vampires, it's still good. This is still a pretty good issue, and it adds clues to like how they're going to end up stopping the vampires. It showcases like the importance of the Lazarus Pits. It showcases that Slade is trying to bring Batman back. So it adds new plot elements to the storyline. I like the idea of the Lazarus Pit being able to cure the vampirisms within people, so I think that's going to play a factor going forward. But like I said, it also keeps the stakes going, and it still is an exciting issue. I just wish it was a little bit more in color. I think it would have helped. But anyways, what are your thoughts on DC versus Vampires All-Out War issue #1 of 6? Did you like this issue? Did you dislike it? Tell me your thoughts in the comment section down below. Be sure to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the YouTube channel for more content, hit that bell for notifications. And yeah, I think that's it in terms of comic book reviews for this week. We got more stuff coming out next week, which should be fun to talk about. And, well, maybe there might be more comic book reviews tomorrow. I don't know. I haven't fully decided yet, but I'm still trying to just keep up to date with a lot of videos today. Like, this is like my busiest video day of the year because you get all the Comic-Con stuff, and you got other news that drops, and it could just be a lot to handle. So, anyways, those are my thoughts on it. Let me know what you thought of the issue in the comment section down below. Thanks for subscribing, liking this video, share it around, and, yeah, DC versus Vampires, still no bad issues in it. I think the weakest one is probably that Harley Quinn one that came out recently. But there's still good stuff overall. All right, well, that's all I got to say. As always, take care now. Bye-bye then, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.